The fields here at Ligon Farms are more than just a pretty backdrop. This 130-acre tract near Clinton is a workplace, and here's the farm laborers. Isis Longo is showing her honey-making process to a group of NRCS specialists who have helped continue this third-generation farm.
I started keeping hives when I was, well, too young to remember, with my mother actually on a different property. Did that for a few years until I believe it was the mites kind of knocked the bottom out of our honeybee business. And then I didn't keep bees again until about 10 years ago. I started keeping bees because a beekeeper talked me into it, tricked me into it, really.
These fields aren't just all natural, they're all Louisiana. Longo has been collecting native seeds from roadsides to replant this former pasture.
All these years, I guess 20 of them, I've been saving seed off the highway rows or anywhere I saw seed that I could legally gather it, stop and ask a landowner, that sort of thing. Save it, put it in those prepped areas, just a little square at a time. Really anything you can use to kill the ground, tin, old rugs, whatever. And you'd be amazed at how quickly these native plants will colonize those areas. And then you're increasing your seed source basically year by year.
The result can be heard as well as seen. Brandon Waltman is a soil scientist with the NRCS.
One of the benefits of a pollinator habitat for sure is that you have that extremely diverse root systems that go down that bring in the soil biology. So not only do you have above ground biodiversity, but you have a lot of below ground.
Speaking of diversity, Longo sells more than just honey here. Fruits, mushrooms, eggs, goat milk, and others are all part of the plan. She also sells American chestnuts here and has use for their unusual seed shells.
And what I did is I used the chestnut burrs, which are extremely sharp. I mean, very sharp. If you get down there and you push on them, they will definitely puncture your finger. And you'll see what happens is a lot of these native plantings, armadillos will come up and just ruin it. Now what happens is that armadillo he came up last night. This is the first time I walked down there since I planted this. He tried to dig that and he never made it any farther than these burrs.
It's more than just a business though. Longo says this is her little slice of paradise.
The first thing I do in the morning after I have my breakfast is take my dogs and my cup of coffee and I walk these trails through all these wildflowers and I just enjoy the huge diversity of caterpillars, butterflies, rabbits, chipmunks, fawns, different grassland birds. It doesn't matter where you walk, when you walk, you're going to see a huge amount of the animals that rely on this kind of habitat. And seeing that is good for humans. You may not believe it, but that means you haven't done it.
Now, one thing I didn't show in that video is the way Isis prepares the ground. She uses sheets of thick cloth to cover each area, naturally killing the grass and other weeds before replanting with native Louisiana seeds. And guys, as you see, she's just an interesting person up there on her third-generation family farm working to, help redo that. And I thought it was so interesting how she got those seeds, just from collecting from the roadside and just, replanting the same stuff that's always grown out there.
Well, it makes sense because it would grow well for all of our pollinators. And I don't know what it is. I love pollinator stories. I can sit there and watch anything about bees all day long.
I mean, it's so interesting to see all that. Speaking of interesting, by the way, I have to mention she's named after the Egyptian goddess of the hearth and home. That's where she got her name from. So I did want to clear that up, just to make sure. But she's just like her unusual name. She's got this unusual plan for it and growing all of those other different things you saw there at the farm. But it really all comes together into a great whole.
Always finding the neat stories.